Hello and welcome once more to a beginner's guide to Paramics Discovery. My name is Malcolm Calvert, I'm the Director of Paramics Microsimulation, and today we're on episode 6 in our series. So if you haven't seen the first 5 episodes, I would recommend that you go and have a look for those on our YouTube channel. If you have been tracking with us throughout, please let us know how you're finding it by leaving a comment or a question on our YouTube channel or our LinkedIn page, wherever you're finding these videos. So the last couple of episodes we've been focusing on junctions in Paramics Discovery, and we've looked at a priority junction in episode 4 and a signal control junction in episode 5. Now in this episode we're going to turn our attention to the third main type of junction that you'll find, and that third type of junction is a roundabout. So I've got the model that we've been using so far in front of me, and I'm going to zoom in on this occasion to this section of the model here. And you will see on the overlay underneath the network that we've coded, we've got a roundabout. Now again, if I turn the tarmac off, I can see the overlay a little bit more clearly, and also my coded network. Now I'm going to switch off my kerbs and lane points and trajectories as well, using the hotkey T, just to make it a little bit cleaner and easier to see. Now when I'm coding a roundabout, the first thing I want to do is get the node at the center of the roundabout in the best position possible. And I can do that by selecting it and dragging it. And what I'm trying to do here is get my black lines and my white lines to match up. And so essentially I'm trying to get the node in the very center of the roundabout. Now when I've got a circular roundabout like I have in this example, there's a very, very quick way to code it. And I can do that on the right click of the node. So by selecting node 6 and right clicking, I've got this option at the bottom called Create Roundabout. But there's one thing I need to do before I choose that option, and that is to set the number of lanes that are going to be on the roundabout. So we can see from the overlay that I've got 2 lanes circulating the roundabout. So what I want to do is set my drop down up here to 2, then select node 6, right click, create roundabout. And that brings up a blue circle on my network, and it also shows me the diameter of that circle in meters. And simply by moving my mouse button, I can position that circle in the center of my roundabout. So here I'm looking at the internal diameter, which is about 10 meters. And I click, and that immediately positions nodes around the center of my roundabout, and it gives me 2 lanes on the circulating carriageway like so. Now one thing you might have noticed as we've created that roundabout is that we've got this new set of yellow arrows on our network. And those are arrows that are specifically for roundabouts, showing the lanes that are being used and the priorities as well. Now to make it a little bit easier to see, I'm going to go to my styles and I'm going to turn off the movements here, which is the hotkey capital M, just to leave my roundabout movements. And that will make it a little bit easier to see what I'm working with here. Now, like other junctions, we need to think about several things at the roundabouts. We need to think about the priorities on the approaches to the roundabout. We also need to think about the lanes which are being used, as well as the kerbs and the lane points. So the priorities, first of all, we can see that automatically the priorities on the approaches are all medium. And that is correct, because on a roundabout, the traffic that's approaching is always giving way to one stream. So it's always looking to the right in the left-hand traffic model and giving way to that traffic. And in a similar way, all of the traffic on the circulating carriageway is major priority. So once you're on the circulating carriageway, you will continue your journey and you won't give way to anything else. So the priorities are automatically correct for us in this case, which is great. The second thing then we need to look at is the lane use on the roundabouts. And this is quite different to lane use at a priority or a signal control junction. And that's because if you think about how you would behave at a roundabout, you take essentially a left turn onto the roundabout and then a left turn off the roundabout. So whereas you might actually be doing a right turn from here to here, let's say, that right turn is made up of two left turns. This one, then going round, and then this one. So we need to think about roundabout lanes in quite a different way to other junctions. And the way that we code roundabout lanes is using a specific roundabout lanes editor. And to access that editor, I first of all need to turn my tarmac back on so that I can select my links. So I'll do that in the Styles panel. And then I need to select any exit link from the roundabout. So let's select this one here, exiting to the northeast. Now when I select that link, I get an icon drawn in the middle of the roundabout. And if I click on that, it's going to show me all the lanes that vehicles can use to get to that exit. And you can think about each of the different movements through the roundabout in turn and whether the lanes used to get to that exit are coded correctly. So this one looks sensible. There's one lane here going into lane 1 and onto this exit. The through movement is something we need to think about a bit more. So we can see that we've got two lanes going through here and here, but then one lane here going into two here. So we need to make a decision, and it will be based on what we've observed on the road or what's been designed in this model about how many lanes are going to be used to get to this exit. So let's assume that it's 2, because we know there's 2 on the exit, there's 2 on the approach, and we've got 2 on the central carriageway as well. That means that I need to select this lane here, and I just left click to switch that on. Now you'll notice as I switch that on, I get a new arrow at this point, and that is telling me that vehicles are able to travel around here and then turn left from this lane onto this exit. So that's addressed one of the exits on a roundabout, and then we need to go through the other 3 and work those out as well. So I'll just quickly do that. I'll select this exit and we can see all the lanes that are possible to get to that. This one looks sensible for the left turn. Now there's a question here for vehicles that are going straight through this junction, whether they would use the inside or outside lane. So I'm going to assume in this case that they'll go into the inside lane like so. And this one looks sensible, as does the U-turn. So then looking at this exit and all of the different approaches to get to that, that one looks reasonable. We've got a question then over how the vehicles get through on this straight through movement and whether they use 2 lanes. So in this case I'm going to assume that they use 1, and it's actually lane 2 here and here. So I'm going to turn that lane off and that lane off as well. This movement looks sensible, as does this one. And then finally, for vehicles travelling to this exit, that looks like a sensible movement in lane 1. Now this is the interesting one. We know that 2 lanes can turn left to here, so I'm going to suggest that this movement goes into lane 2, and that's because we've got a conflict here where if we keep lane 1 on, the vehicles can go round in lane 1, we know they can turn off in lane 2, so that could be a potential collision point for vehicles. So I'm going to switch them off in lane 1 and assume that they use lane 2 and go round. That looks like a sensible right turn and a sensible U-turn. So roundabout coding is all about the exits and the lanes that vehicles can use to get to that exit. So it's a little bit different than drawing a specific path that vehicles are going to use. It's about the lanes that they can use to get to that exit. And a good check once you've done your roundabout lane coding is to have a look at the arrows. So if I click away from the junction, it will take my roundabout lanes off. And I can just check through my arrows on the approaches and on the circulating carriageway On the approaches, especially when there's more than one lane, I'm looking to check that the arrows match the lane marking that's on the road, and the vehicles are using the appropriate lane for the different movements. On the circulating carriageway, I'm checking that I don't have any conflicts. So I don't see a vehicle, for example, going around the roundabout here while another one is trying to turn left here. And I can see that I don't have any conflicts in this particular case. Now the final couple of things we're going to do to finish this roundabout off are similar to what we've done on the previous two junctions, and that's to look at our kerbs and our lane points. So I'm going to go to my styles and turn my tarmac off again so I can see the overlay a little bit more clearly. I'm going to turn my kerbs and my lane points on. Now I can see that all my kerbs and my lane points are in their default positions, so none of them have been moved yet. And the reason I can tell that is because none of them are the blue color, which they would be if I moved them. And similar to other junctions, you simply click on a kerb or a lane point and you can move it into position. Now on the circulating carriageway, because this is a curve, the kerbs will only move along the curve of the carriageway, like so, whereas the ones on the straight links are moved more freely. Now most of the kerbs here are in reasonably good positions, but there's some cases where I might want to change my lane points. And an example might be here, where I'm really wanting to get this path from where the vehicle stops to how it accesses the circulating carriageway. And I can tell by turning on trajectories what the path is. So it's not bad, but you might want to move your lane point a little bit further in to smooth that path somewhat, especially if it's tight like this approach here. So moving your lane point in like so. Now the other option is by moving the kerb in, you'll see that it also moves the lane points. So sometimes moving our kerbs can be useful because they also move our lane points like so. So similar to other junctions, by moving kerbs and lane points, we're really just trying to get the geometry as accurate as possible, but more importantly, it's those vehicle paths that we're trying to get as accurate as possible, because they will ultimately affect the level of traffic flow that can be achieved at this junction. Okay, so we've gone through the steps of coding a simple circular roundabout by placing the node in the center and right-clicking and choosing Create Roundabout, checking the priorities on the approaches by coding our roundabout lanes using the Roundabout Lanes editor, and then adjusting our kerbs and lane points at the end. And of course, there's a whole other step to go, which is to get traffic onto this network and actually see how it behaves. And that's the real test of our junction coding, is once we get traffic on. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing in the next couple of episodes. We're going to be looking at how we assign traffic onto our network and then watch it in action. So we look forward to seeing you then. Bye for now.